What's up you guys, America, and welcome back to my channel. No, you grow up. Today's video we're going to be diving back into my Playmates series, and we're kind of getting towards the end of that too. So today I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite subline figures. Clearly there's a million different sublines that I could talk about, but for this video I'm pretty much just going to stick to the ones that I'm going after, the ones that I currently have, and I'm not even going to talk about all the figures that I have, just some of my favorites and stuff like that. So that's all I really have to say before we start this one, so we can get right into it. When I look back at the OG Playmates TMNT line, I think it's pretty easy to split the figures up into two different camps. You would think that the bulk of the figures for any successful line would fall into the main line, but even though that's how it started for the Turtles, it really started shifting its focus to the sublines somewhere around the 4th or the 5th years of the line. The main line was all there was for the first year in the Playmates figures. Over the next couple of years, they would still keep going strong with the main line, but along with them we'd start getting a subline or two mixed in with each of the waves. Around the 4th year, they really started upping the number of figures they were putting out in a year, and while the mainline offering stayed around the same for the first 5 years, give or take a few figures, the number of subline figures kept going up and up every year. Eventually the mainline was pretty much entirely abandoned and all Playmates was putting out was subline after subline and turtle variant after turtle variant. I feel like the sublines are what started to push some of the older kids out of the line, because they definitely tended to lean into some goofier directions that applied to the younger portions of the audience such as myself. I actually only had 7 mainline characters in my entire childhood TMNT collection. My collection was mostly all sublines and pretty much just all variations of the 4 bros. I love playing with all the mainline figures that my friends had, but whenever I got to pick my own figure, I almost always would get a turtle from the most recent subline. I had almost every Raph variation they put out from 88 to 93, and I love them all no matter how ridiculous they were. Clearly I could talk for about 5 hours about each and every subline, but for this video I'm just going to be kind of sticking to the figures that I'm collecting or the ones that I'm after right now. The Wacky Action subline was the first one that Playmates put out, and although I feel like it's probably one of my least favorite sublines, it's still very important to me nostalgia wise and worth talking about. I had the original 4 mainline Turtles, Splinter, and Krang as far back as I can remember, but I actually remember getting my Wacky Action Raph and being like, wow, this is the new Raph, which would be a reoccurring thought that I would pretty much have with every subline that would come out going forward. The gimmick of the line was that each turtle would have a wind-up feature that was used to create a unique action for each figure. Raph would spin on his back when you inserted his accessory, which was like a trash can lid. Leo's arm would do a windmill. Mikey's arm would spin at the forearm and rotate. Donnie has a little flotation device and kicks his legs to create like a swim action, and because of this he's kind of a difficult one to get standing in a non-awkward position, but I've kind of been able to figure it out. Even though I have a ton of memories with these guys, there's no denying that they are aesthetically some of the worst looking figures in the entire line. It was their first attempt at a subline, and clearly they wanted to prioritize the play gimmick over the aesthetics. I feel like they wanted to differentiate these from the mainline figures by changing up their look a great deal, and the next few sublines would take steps into a much better direction. It's also kind of annoying that these figures come with belts that were designed to hold their original weapons, but they don't actually come with any of their original weapons. They just come with all these really weird things with animals attached to them. And again, just a lot of weird choices made for this first subline, but I get it. They were trying to figure stuff out, they were trying something new, and sometimes that kind of leads to weird things. The Storage Shell Turtles are a fan favorite, and rightfully so, because these guys are dope. I currently only have Leo and Donnie, but Raph and Mikey are both in my top 10 most wanted figures of the moment, Raph probably being a top 3 figure for me. The gimmick here is right in the name. They're hollowed out on the inside, and the back of their shell is on a hinge, and they're able to store a bunch of random accessories they come with as well as their main weapons in their belt. These figures killed it sculpt wise. They are some of my favorite looking turtles outside the original mainline turtles. They went back to the all white eyes with no pupils, which I prefer for these figures, and the over-exaggerated facial expressions was a great way to give them their own identity without looking too similar to the mainline turtles. Another thing they did to give each of these guys their own flavor was make their belts the corresponding color to each turtle, which I love. It just gives them a little more pop and presence, and off the top of my head, I would say that this is probably my second favorite subline. The figures just look so good, and they have an awesome play feature that didn't compromise the sculpt of the figure at all. The Movie Star Turtles are some of the most unique Turtles figures in the entire line, and I loved these guys when I was a kid. Like most kids my age, Secret of the Ooze was my jam, so I was so stoked to get these figures. I had all 4 of the Movie Star Turtles as a kid, and they pretty much replaced my original mainline Turtles for a while as my go-to Turtles. The big thing that set these guys apart from the other sublines were that they were made of this rubbery material and the figures would bend and give, which I really liked as a kid. These guys lack forearm swivels, and it really shows you how important they are in terms of being able to hold their weapons in a more natural angle. They do have like ball joints at the shoulders that are a little bit more like their hip joints, so that's kind of cool that they have a little bit more range at the shoulders. But again, I feel like the forearm swivel just does a little bit more to get these guys in better positions. That's really my only complaint with these figures, and other than that, I still really like these guys today, and they just remind me of the point that was pretty much the pinnacle of my Turtles fandom as a child. Saving what I think is the best for last, the Turtles in Disguise is my favorite subline from my childhood, and I like these guys almost as much as I do the original 4 Turtles. I'm pretty sure this was the 3rd subline to hit the shelves, and it did everything right that the Wacky Action Turtles did wrong in the aesthetics department. This is where they would kind of start to have 2 different distinct themes for sublines. You had your standard naked turtles, with different play features such as the previously mentioned Wacky Action and Storage Shell Turtles that would eventually lead to other sublines like the Mutating Turtles and the Head Dropping Turtles. And then on the other hand, you had what I call the role-playing turtles, where they started putting the turtles in costumes such as the turtles I'm about to talk about, the military turtles, the sports turtles, and the infamous turtles that would probably get you canceled today. Eventually, the streams would merge to give us one of my favorite sublines I'm yet to go after, which is the Sewer Spitting Turtles that had both wacky costumes and a play feature. These guys were the first to go down the roleplay costume route, and they are some of my all-time favorites in this department. They could have just went with all 4 turtles being in the same disguise as Donnie, but I'm glad they chose to give each turtle their own theme. Leo was the only one I didn't have as a kid, and you're going to hear me say this one last time, Pat and Cliff did have this figure, and he was one of my favorite figures that they had. I love the detailing in his armor, and his color scheme is one of my all-time favorites. I'm definitely a big fan of the gold on him in Space Usagi. Sewer Surfing Mikey is one of my favorites as a kid, and he was a regular bathtub toy for me, so unfortunately, like my current figure, his stickers didn't last too long. This is one of the few figures that I own that I'm going to straight up replace because he is in awful shape. He's probably in the worst shape of any figure I have. It looks like a dog got a hold of him, but I got him for less than $10, and it was when I was new to collecting, so I was just happy to have him. But he will be replaced eventually. The surfer gimmick was a perfect choice for Mikey, and definitely epitomizes the fun side of the Turtles. The Space Cadet Raph figure is one of my most memorable childhood figures. I mentioned this in the first video in this series, but this is a figure that just has a very unique feel to me in my hands, and when I got him again as an adult, it was a very cool feeling, literally, to hold this guy in my hands again. I love his weapons, and I had a ton of fun solo adventures with him when I was a kid. My current figure's helmet is in terrible shape, so that's something I would like to upgrade down the road, as I really like displaying him with the helmet on. This may come as a surprise to anyone who has been catching the majority of my content, but this is one of the very few times where Raph is not my favorite figure in the lineup. Undercover Donnie is one of my all-time favorite figures, and my favorite non-Raph turtle figure of all time. I also mentioned this in my first video, but I got 3 of this figure for my 4th birthday, and that might be one of my favorite and most vivid memories of my early childhood. I love playing with the one that I kept, and he was the only non-Raph turtle that I ever took with me as my take-along figure when I went somewhere, or that would have his own solo adventures. I would often use him and the mainline Donnie in the same play session, swapping them in and out depending on if he needed to do any undercover work. I always loved how you could actually open up the briefcase and put stuff in it, but unfortunately my current version doesn't have any of the stickers for the suitcase or his gun any longer, but they'll still do for now. My goal when I got back into collecting Playmates figures was to go after the first 4 waves of the mainline, but I actually got all 4 of these guys almost immediately because they're just some of my all-time favorites. Alright you guys, so that's going to wrap things up for this one. Sorry about the delay on my videos. I just got back from a week-long vacation. I had intended to get a video out before I went on that vacation, but it didn't end up happening, and I planned on telling you guys that I was going on vacation in that video. So sorry about the lag on that, but again, I should be back to getting out videos in a regular manner. Thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you to anybody who has watched any of my videos. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to all the new subscribers for not posting any videos in the last couple weeks. I actually picked up a good amount of subscribers, so welcome you all to my channel. I still have a couple more videos in this series to put out, and the next one should actually be out pretty quick. So that's all I really got for you guys today then, so take it easy, be safe, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace!